They laughed at us. That's the first thing I remember. The Council of Nine, 7 tentacled plasma-bodied freaks from the Xanax cluster broadcasted their judgment across the galaxy like they were handing out a school report card. Primitive, emotionally unstable, technologically stunted, Earth poses no strategic threat. That was the moment humanity officially became a joke. To them, we were just a mildly interesting species who could barely scratch the edges of interstellar travel. Our ships were bulky, slow, and lacked elegance. Our satellites were primitive. Our AI was limited. We still used firearms for crying out loud. And yet, here I am, sitting in a dark, scorched-out bunker beneath what used to be Mare Tranquillitatis on the moon. Above me, there's nothing but floating debris and the occasional screaming siren echoing through space. Their base is gone, and nobody knows how it happened. They're calling it an internal explosion, a reactor malfunction, sabotage by one of their own. But they're wrong. We did it. Not NASA, not the UN, not any official government, actually. That's the fun part. We're not soldiers or diplomats. We're a bunch of off-the-grid engineers, hackers, and dropouts who met in a backroom VR chat and decided, screw the galaxy, let's make some noise. And guess what? We did, you see. While they were mocking our outdated tech, they forgot something important. Humans are desperate, creative, and petty as hell when underestimated. We don't need sleek plasma drives or quantum entanglement systems. We make miracles out of duct tape, 3D printers, and junkyard parts. It all started 3 years ago when a cargo drone from the Zenthari Dominion crashed in the Sahara. The media reported it as a meteor, but a few of us knew better. We were already watching the skies. We tracked the heat signature, triangulated the fall, and when everyone turned their cameras elsewhere, we got there first. The drone was messed up, but intact. And inside, oh man, the goodies we found, a dark matter converter, alien microreactors, some kind of hybrid silicon-organic processor we still can't fully reverse engineer. It was like a cheat code to the next 500 years of tech, so we got to work. We called ourselves the Basement, partly because we literally worked in basements, abandoned subway tunnels and caves, but also because we liked the metaphor, hidden, ignored, but ready to shake the house above us. It wasn't easy. Some of us got caught, some disappeared. One of our coders, Marcy, got picked up by intergalactic surveillance when she tried to sell hacked Zenthari blueprints on the darknet.
They tortured her.
Left her mind broken. That's when it stopped being fun. That's when it got personal. And that's when we decided to target the moon base. You see, the Xanax Council set up that base to monitor human activity. What they really meant was control. They were using it to jam our satellites, manipulate weather patterns, even intercept internet data. Quiet colonization, a leash we didn't know we had around our necks. So we built a weapon, not a laser, not a missile, too predictable. We designed something else, something they wouldn't see coming, because it didn't look like tech at all. It looked like a rock, well, until it landed. You probably heard the boom. You might have even seen the flash from Earth, but no one knows the truth, not yet. And I swear to you, as I sit here beneath the wreckage, running out of oxygen and time, I'm going to record every second of what we did. I'm going to tell
you how we broke the galaxy's rules, how we proved them wrong, how we showed them that humans don't need your approval to be dangerous. They said we had no tech. Funny, then what the hell destroyed your moon base?
The first time we tested it, we thought we killed a city. It was in the Nevada desert. No warning, no countdown. We launched a prototype from an old military railgun, disguised it as space debris, and let it fall. What it did, when it hit the ground, no one was prepared for that. The impact didn't leave a crater. It rearranged the molecular structure of everything within a kilometer. Sand turned to glass. Air twisted into dense fog. Electronics nearby shorted out like they'd been screamed.
We didn't even know if it was a weapon at first. It was supposed to be a drone, a stealth observer with adaptive AI and self-replicating code.
Something that could sneak into alien systems and learn without being noticed. But during a test run, it absorbed too much radiation from the prototype reactor. It changed. It developed something like a pulse. We called it a whisper. When activated, it emitted a silent blast that overloaded any system not hardened by human tech. And since our enemies didn't think much of our tech, they never bothered to shield against it. That was their mistake and our opportunity. We had 3 working units by the time we set our sights on the moon base. We didn't know which one would survive launch. We didn't know if any would. But that wasn't the point. The point was to send a message. You can mock us, you can monitor us, but you can't ignore us forever. There were 6 of us in the final operation. Jin, our physicist, ex-MIT, fired for ethics violations after hacking an AI ethics committee during a debate. Ramon, logistics ex-cartel smuggler turned
Rogue pilot.
never asked why, only how fast. Ava, biotech genius, creepy smart, once built a neural interface from an old gaming console and chicken wire. Kip, my best friend, our code wizard. Kid could make a toaster think it was a spaceship. Mags, former deep-sea welder, strong as hell, quiet, liked explosions, and me, they called me Shade. No fancy background, no Ivy League. I grew up watching satellites pass overhead like gods that never spoke to us. I decided one day they'd listen. We met at the edge of Mare Crisium. Ramon got us there in a rusted-out lunar lander we bought from a Chinese junk dealer and retrofitted, with stolen alien grav drives. The moment we landed, the sensors started going crazy. We knew they were watching. That was the idea. Kip started the upload from a disguised server in Kenya. It relayed through 30 ghost satellites, then downlinked to our launch array in Antarctica. That's where the payload was waiting. Whisper Unit 003, the last one we had. Ava had tweaked its AI, given it a kind of attitude. It wasn't sentient, but it responded to voice tone, liked compliments, refused orders if it sensed stress. Creepy, like I said. When it launched, we held our breath. Halfway there, it vanished off radar. We thought we'd failed. We started to argue. Kip blamed the relay, Ava blamed the payload, Ramon blamed the universe. But Mags just stared up at the sky, then pointed. A faint glow, then a crackling silence over the radio, then nothing, no transmission, no signal, just the stars and the distant flicker of something breaking apart above the horizon. A minute later, the Council's moon base lost power. 5 minutes after that, it ceased to exist. We sat in stunned silence. No celebration, no cheering, just the realization of what we'd done. We, the nobodies, the misfits, the earthlings they laughed at. We'd taken down an intergalactic powers installation without a fleet, without an army, without their permission, and now? Now we were targets, but we were also legends. The basement had just changed the rules, and the galaxy had no idea what we'd built next. They didn't respond right away. That was the scariest part. No threats,
No retaliation, no swarm of sleek, silent warships raining fire on our cities. Nothing. Just silence, the kind that creeps into your bones and whispers they're planning something worse. For 3 days, Earth held its breath. The moon base
Was gone, every trace of it atomized. But the Council hadn't made a public statement. The media spun wild theories: rogue asteroid, cosmic radiation, internal sabotage. Only a few conspiracy forums hinted at the truth, and even they were laughed off. But we knew better. On the fourth day, the silence broke. It started with a ripple in the thermosphere, subtle but strong. Kip caught it on our sensors. At first, he thought it was a glitch. But when the pulse repeated every 88 seconds exactly, we realized it was a signal, a warning. Then the Council broadcasted their message. The entire planet heard it. This is the Unified Council of 9. A violation of interstellar law has occurred. A protected monitoring facility was destroyed by unknown means. Effective immediately, Earth is under containment protocol. Containment. They didn't say invasion. They didn't say war, they said containment, like we were a virus. Within hours, our satellites started blinking out, one by one, not destroyed, disabled, hijacked. Our GPS system scrambled, our internet throttled to a crawl. Even civilian comms started glitching. It was a map of Earth, but not like any satellite map I'd ever seen. This one was alive, pulsing with strange threads of energy, like veins running through the planet. Kip said it was a byproduct of whispers. Detonation on the moon. We broke something, he whispered, eyes wide. We didn't just destroy the base, we ruptured a field, something old, something buried deep in Earth's magnetic layer. He tapped a blinking point near the South Pole. And now it's waking up. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. What the hell is it? Kip looked at me like he wanted to lie. Then he said, I think it's ours. That night, I couldn't sleep, because if what Kip said was true, we didn't just prove humans had tech, we might have proved we had something older, something buried, something the Council didn't want us to find. And if they knew we were close, containment was just the beginning. They would come next, not to control us, but to erase us. The journey to the South Pole wasn't a mission, it was a descent into a place the world forgot. We left Iceland under heavy cloud cover, flying blind in a hacked Zarnak scout glider that Kip managed to reprogram using a neural interface duct taped to a broken VR headset. Honestly, it shouldn't have flown. But that was the thing about human tech. We didn't build it pretty. We built it desperate, and desperate works. As we flew south, the interference got worse. Static. In our comms, weird flickers across the horizon like the sky was cracking at the seams. Kip kept muttering about harmonic phase shifts, whatever the hell that meant, and I just kept my eyes locked on the terrain below. Miles of snow and silence. Then we saw it. A black circle, perfect, carved into the ice like someone used. A goddamn cookie cutter the size of a stadium. The ice wasn't just broken, it was evaporated. A hole 50 meters deep, ringed with scorched snow and twisted metal that looked vaguely alien. At the center was a structure, ancient, stone, and glowing faintly with a red pulse every few seconds, timed exactly to the rhythm of the signal Kip had tracked from the moon. He was right. Whisper hadn't just destroyed the base, it had woken something up. We landed on the edge of the crater, our glider groaning under the weight of reality bending around us. My head pounded, my vision kept doubling. Something about this place wasn't right, like the rules of physics came here to die. We walked the last stretch on foot, crunching across snow that didn't melt but felt soft, like old ash. Kip had brought a hand scanner he built from an old game controller and a microwave coil. It beeped every time we got closer to the structure, which he now called the heart. He didn't explain the name. I didn't ask. We stepped inside. The temperature dropped instantly, so cold, my breath froze mid-air and hung in front of me like tiny glass ghosts. The stone walls were smooth, black, and covered in carvings. Not letters, not symbols, circuits, ancient, impossibly complex circuits etched into stone like they were meant to last forever. "This place wasn't built," Kip whispered. "It was grown." At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal. On it, a sphere floated, hovering inches above the surface, spinning slowly, humming with a frequency that made my bones itch. "This is it," Kip said. "This is why they were watching us. Not because we're a threat now, but because we're sitting on something that is." He reached for it, and the world changed. I can't describe it. I'll try, but it won't make sense. Time folded in. Sound became color. My memories exploded like a hard drive booting every file at once. I saw cities buried under oceans long before history. I saw humans, real humans, standing side by side with something not human, but familiar.
I saw the stars, but they looked closer, like they were part of us. And I saw fear, the Council's fear, because this thing, this heart, it wasn't alien, it was ours. Ours before we forgot, ours before they came. They didn't colonize Earth.
They didn't monitor us, they buried us, they erased our past. And now, with one pulse, one strike on their moon base, we'd knocked loose the seal they'd locked around us. Kip collapsed next to the pedestal, blood leaking from his nose, eyes wide open but seeing nothing. "Kip!"
I grabbed him, shook him, but he was gone, not dead, not broken, just somewhere else. Trapped between frequencies, burned into the signal. The heart pulsed again, and I understood. This wasn't a weapon, it was a key, and we just unlocked a door.
The galaxy had spent 10,000 years trying to keep shut. Didn't mean to activate it. My hand barely brushed the surface of the floating sphere. It felt warm, alive, like something breathing just beneath my skin. And then, all at once, the chamber moved. The walls began to shift and separate with a low grinding hum, revealing tunnels carved deep into the ice. Each one glowed with veins of red light, pulsing in sync with the sphere's heartbeat. The heart was awake now, and it had been waiting. I looked down at Kip, still unconscious, trapped in whatever hellish download the heart had forced into his mind. I wanted to carry him out, to run and never look back. But my feet wouldn't move. The sphere spoke, not in words, in memories, my own. It rifled through my past, my childhood, my first fight, my first failure, the moment I realized I'd never be a hero, only a threat. It stripped away my armor, layer by layer, until I was just raw, instinct and ache. And then it showed me others, people like me. From before. Human, but not older. Taller. Faster. Glowing with the same red fire that pulsed in the heart. They called themselves the First Ones. The original stewards of Earth. Not born, forged. Grown from Earth's own consciousness. A civilization so advanced they folded gravity like paper and wove time into architecture, but they weren't gods. They were us, before fear made us forget. Then came the council, not as conquerors, as cleaners. They'd seen it before, civilizations that grew too fast, too wild, too uncontrollable. So they developed a method, erase the record, scatter the survivors, let memory rot. But Earth didn't die quietly. The First Ones had built fail-safes, anchors hidden in ice, in stone, in the bloodline of what would one day become us. The heart was one of those anchors, and by destroying the moon base, we triggered the first ignition. I stumbled back, breath shallow, head swimming. The tunnels were calling now, glowing brighter, whispering words in a language my mouth couldn't form, but my bones could feel. I picked up Kip. He was heavy and twitching, eyes still fluttering like he was stuck between dreams and dimensions. I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't leave him behind, so I followed the light. The tunnel narrowed, descended deeper, until the walls turned from ice to smooth black metal. No, not metal. Something older, something alive. My fingers brushed it, and it pulsed beneath my touch like it was reading me, measuring me, deciding if I belonged. Apparently I did. The passage opened into a chamber unlike anything I'd ever seen. Floating symbols spun in mid-air, tracing orbits, around a massive cylindrical structure that pulsed with the same rhythm as the heart above. It was taller than any skyscraper I'd ever seen, stretching endlessly downward into the planet's core. This wasn't just a base, it was a reactor, not for energy, for memory. This thing held everything the Council had tried to destroy. Culture, language, maps, weapons, protocols, all of it stored in quantum threads and pulsing light, waiting to be claimed by a human mind ready to understand it. And that's when I realized what Kip had become. Not broken, not gone. He was uploaded. The heart had chosen him as the first interface. His brain, wired with homemade tech and reckless genius, had been the perfect bridge between now and then. But bridges go both ways. And now something was coming through. The lights around us flickered, the room shook, a rumble rolled up from the sheer depths like something waking from a 1,000-year nap. And then a voice, a real one this time, echoed through the chamber, a deep, genderless tone that vibrated inside my chest. One has awakened.
2 remain. Earth will rise again. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew we had just rung the galaxy's loudest alarm bell. And every enemy out there, they'd heard it too. I barely made it back to the surface before the storm hit. Not a
Weather storm, a council response unit, sleek, silent. Vessels that didn't fly, they slid through space like light over glass. 4 of them hovered above the crater when I dragged Kip's barely breathing body into the open air. They didn't fire. Not yet. They wanted to know what I touched, and I think they were scared. One of the ships landed without a sound. A ramp slid down. Out walked something I'll never forget. Tall, featureless, white like bone, polished to a mirror shine. No eyes, no mouth. Just a single golden ring floating around its head, spinning slowly. A council enforcer. These things didn't speak with words. They overwrote your thoughts. The moment it looked at me, I dropped to my knees, clutching my skull. My mind filled with alien voices, overlapping commands, memories that weren't mine, emotions that felt like data. It didn't ask questions, it injected them. What did you access? Who activated the heart? Where are the other anchors? I didn't
answer. Not because I was brave, because Kip answered for me. He opened his eyes, bloodshot, glowing faintly red, and whispered a single word that wasn't in any language I'd ever heard.
And the enforcer froze. Its rings stopped spinning, its body locked mid-step, then its head cracked, slow and unnatural, like a machine trying to glitch through panic. Kip whispered again, and the enforcer shattered into a cloud of glass-like dust. The 3 ships above us pulled back immediately. No lasers, no warnings. They just retreated, fast, cutting a hard arc into the clouds like they'd seen a ghost. Because they had. They'd seen what we used to be. I got Kip into our glider and took off before I could think twice. Didn't know where I was going, just
knew I had to get somewhere away. Somewhere we could regroup, rethink, warn someone. But who the hell do you warn when you've just triggered a war 10,000 years in the making?
By the time we reached orbit, the heart had already begun to spread. Satellite feeds showed new pulses in the Andes, under the Sahara, somewhere deep beneath the ocean near Micronesia. 3 signals, 3 hearts, 3 awakening points. Kip called them the anchors. Each one unlocks a part of the old world, he said, weak but conscious now, voice strange and flat. Weapons, defenses, truths, the Council buried them so humans would stay manageable. And if we activate all 3? I asked. He looked at me with those glowing eyes, and I swear for a second it wasn't Kip looking back. It won't be humanity that rises, he said. It'll be what we were before we called ourselves that. I didn't like the sound of that, but I liked the alternative even less, because while Earth had begun to wake up, so had the galaxy. Council ships were massing in orbit now. Their containment wasn't containment anymore. It was siege, but they weren't sending soldiers, they were sending judicators. Extinction-level protocol. One judicator could sterilize a continent in 6 hours. I'd read the files. Leaked. Documents from a rogue Sithari diplomat who once tried to defect to Earth's side. These machines weren't built to fight. They were built to end, and they were coming fast. The thing is, this time we weren't running. Because for the first time in human history, we had something that matched their power, maybe even surpassed it. And all we had to do was wake the rest of it up. We touched down in the Andes at night. No lights, no signals, just shadows and snow and the hum of something older than language vibrating through the mountains. Kip said the 3rd anchor was here, buried beneath what was once called Lake Misk, now long dried out and swallowed by tectonic collapse. A place no map recorded, but the heart's pulse knew like a memory. He wasn't fully Kip anymore, not really. He still looked like Kip, same crooked smile, same messy hair. But when he spoke, it was too calm, too controlled, like he was part human, part operating system. He claimed he could hear the planet now. Not like a hippie metaphor. Literally. The heart is sinking with the others, he told me, as we descended into a cave system lit by faint red glyphs pulsing. Along the walls, They're not separate devices, they're parts of a single entity, Earth's core mind, a global construct that's been dormant since before recorded time. Why? I asked. Why bury something like this? Why forget
Who we were?
Kip stopped walking. He looked back at me, eyes half lit, half haunted, and said, because we weren't ready. Because power without memory is destruction. The council made sure we never remembered. And that's when I saw it. A massive doorway, round and sealed, carved into the stone like a vault. No handle, no keyhole. Just one glowing handprint shape, and a symbol that had been burned into my memory since the heart first pulsed. A spiral wrapped in a triangle, pierced by
a single vertical line, the mark of the first ones. I reached out.
My hand fit the shape exactly. The door recognized me and opened. What lay beyond was not a machine, it was a being, or what remained of one. A colossal figure, seated cross-legged in a chamber of crystal and living stone. 10 meters tall, wrapped in cables that pulsed like veins, skin that looked like stone but shimmered with heat, and a face, a human face, but old, older than bones. It opened its eyes. They were stars. The third has returned, it said, its voice like thunder cracking across a still lake. The final sequence begins. I stumbled back, heart racing. Kip walked forward, eyes glowing brighter than ever. The being reached out and touched his chest, not with fingers, but with a pulse of light that passed through him, and then Kip collapsed, just dropped, like a puppet with its strings cut. I ran to him, panicking, shouting his name. Then his voice echoed from everywhere at once. I'm okay.
I'm still here. But I'm also there now. The system needed a guide. What system? I shouted. And that's when the mountain began to tremble, not shake. Breathe. Outside, a scream pierced the sky. I ran up through the tunnels to see.
What was happening? They were here, the Judicators. 4 of them. Each the size of a skyscraper, shaped like obsidian obelisks floating just above the Andes. The air crackled, light twisted around them. Weapons that had erased entire civilizations were powering up. One of them fired. I thought I died. The blast struck the mountain, vaporizing half the ridge, but I was still standing. A dome of red light surrounded the cave, the same pulse as the wire heart. The first one's technology had responded before the beam hit. Then something impossible happened. The mountain moved, not fell apart. Moved, stone lifted, split, shaped itself, realized what the third anchor truly was. It wasn't a vault, it was a vessel, a titan, a war form left behind by Earth's forgotten ancestors. Buried, sleeping, waiting for a time when the planet needed more than protests and diplomacy. It needed vengeance. The being in the chamber, it was the core, and Kip was now its pilot. The sky was on fire. Judicators moved like silent gods, 4 black obelisks glowing with searing white light, hovering above the Andes like death made geometric. Each was a weapon of pure judgment. No pilots, no feelings, just execution. And Earth? Earth growled. The Titan rose from the mountain. Not walked, rose. stone cracked and peeled like armor. Glowing red seams pulsed with molten energy, revealing a humanoid figure 50 meters tall, broad shoulders, thick arms, no face, just a glowing spiral etched into its chest where a heart should be. And Kip's voice came through every frequency. "This
is Earth's answer." The Judicators attacked first. A beam of white heat, hotter than the sun's surface, lanced through the clouds and struck the Titan in the chest. I screamed. I thought it was over. The Titan didn't fall, it absorbed.
The light spread across its body, crackling like plasma over skin, and then with a movement that shook the world, it punched the air. The shockwave shattered clouds and bent space. The nearest Judicator spun wildly, its energy matrix disrupted. The others adjusted, recalibrating. Too late. Kip activated something ancient. I watched the Titan lift one hand and open its fingers wide. Dozens of glowing symbols appeared mid-air around it, not weapons, but commands. Code written in a dead language. A memory interface, a planetary operating system, and the Earth responded. Volcanoes flared. Waves rose, lightning danced unnaturally in patterns across the sky. Not chaos, but design. The entire planet had become part of the defense. The Judicators were strong. They moved faster than anything built by man. But they weren't fighting machines now. They were fighting memory. They were fighting rage. Kip's voice echoed across all frequencies, including theirs. This planet remembers every lie, every erasure, every time you called us broken. Another Titan rose, this one from beneath the ocean near Micronesia, formed from coral and iron. A third erupted from deep in the Sahara, plated in obsidian, eyes glowing gold, each connected to an anchor, each linked by the heart. The Judicators were surrounded. They tried to flee. They didn't get far. The Titans moved faster than mountains should, launching through the air like gods reborn. The first Judicator was ripped apart by bare hands. No weapons, just the raw force of Earth's will. The second was crushed between two Titans like a tin can. The third tried to detonate, a last-ditch fail-safe. Kip stopped it mid-air, just held it there, frozen in light, and said no more. Then crushed it with the force of a planet's memory. Behind him, the last Judicator fled, but not before it broadcasted one final transmission to the galaxy. Earth has risen, the first ones, live. Protocol Zarknul initiated.
Then it vanished. We knew what that meant. The council wasn't coming next time. They were sending everyone, but it didn't matter anymore because the lie was broken, because now the galaxy knew. Earth had tech, Earth had Titans, and most of all, Earth had anger. Kip's voice faded from the airwaves, but I knew he wasn't gone. He was part of the Titan now, part of the heart, part of the memory.
He'd become the bridge between past and future. As I stood at the edge of the scorched mountain, watching the sun rise through ash and lightning, I smiled. They said we had no tech. They said we were nothing but savages with bullets and dreams. But
now they were running, and the stars had just learned to fear Earth again.